The NFL draft is always host to some of the freakiest athletes on the planet. We always see players put on a show at the combine and show just how truly they really are. This year is no exception to that rule, and Kentucky defensive tackle Deone Walker is quite literally one of the most insane athletes I have ever seen in my life. A player who has been incredibly productive for the Wildcats over the last couple of seasons and is one of the most hyped up prospects entering the draft. Where does he ultimately get taken in April? That is what we will be discussing in today's video. But hey guys, if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon, which will be linked down below. For $5 a month, you guys will get exclusive access to my draft big board, evaluations, prospect interviews, early access to prospect spotlights, and so much more. But without further ado, let's take a closer look at Deone Walker. Walker started every game for the Wildcats in 2023 and was absolutely dominant. He had 51 total pressures, 8 sacks, 29 run stops, and 29 tackles on the year. He was dominant as both a run stuffer as well as a pass rusher, and many people expect him to repeat these numbers in the 2024 campaign and continue to fly up draft boards. We have to get the elephant out of the room first, and that is that Walker has absolutely ridiculous size for the position. He is 6'6", 348 pounds, and truly is a special athlete for the position. Typically with players that you find over 340 pounds, you would expect them to be a run stuffer, a nose tackle, but that's not really the case with Walker. While yes, he is tall and built like a tank, and he continues to take up space in the middle of the defensive line, we have to mention his athleticism because I don't think I've ever seen a player quite like this. He has one of the most explosive first steps off the line of scrimmage, and he moves incredibly well. It's not often you can see players around 340 pounds drop back into coverage, but Walker did that, especially in the Florida game, and he actually made some splash plays at times. He's an exceptional athlete with elite quickness and speed to get into the backfield, and he knows how to utilize his athleticism to his advantage. Walker thrives as both a pass rusher and run defender. He has some really nice pass rush moves, and he displayed a filthy swim move at times that he utilized to get into the backfield and create pressure on the quarterback. But because he's so big and has such great length, he did a great job of closing holes in the run game and just being a mean run stuffer, which I loved to see from him. Walker is an absolutely fantastic prospect with some of the best athletic tools I've seen, but that doesn't mean that he's a perfect prospect. Oddly enough, power was a concern that I had with Walker. He didn't have a very strong bull rush, and he didn't have a ton of ability to convert his speed to power, which is an area I'd like to see him improve upon. Because of this, offensive linemen could almost game plan for it, and he showed some balance concerns from time to time because they'd like to pull the chair out when he did try to go to power. So I'd like to see him develop a little bit more power in his game. Another area I did notice Walker struggling at was taking on double teams. He got really stiff at times, and he couldn't figure out how to split the doubles and make a play in the backfield. Over and over again, this came up, and I think it's something he's going to need to improve on when he gets to the NFL level. Walker does a lot of things exceptionally well and is an absolutely elite athlete for the position. He's an extremely versatile player who could even line up off the edge in some formations because he is such an elite athlete. But I think he's going to work best as a 3-tech. In a situation where he can be a dominant pass rusher, he can get one-on-one assignments where he is going to win those assignments because he is so good with his hands and he has such great quickness. I don't think he necessarily is going to be a prototypical nose tackle at the next level. I think a penetrating 3-tech who can rush the passer is exactly where he'd fit best at the NFL level. This is an absolutely loaded defensive tackle class, and Walker is right up there at the top. He comes in as a top 10 player in this draft class, but I do have him as the number 2 defensive tackle in this group. I think he's a borderline blue chip prospect, and we don't see players like him come around too often. He would have easily been the top defensive tackle off the board in the 2024 draft, but he needs to develop a little bit of areas before I can give him the number 1 spot. My player comparison for Deone Walker is new Las Vegas Raiders defensive tackle Christian Wilkins. It was going to be almost impossible to compare him to anyone even close to his size because he is a unicorn for the position. His playstyle is very similar to Wilkins, however, who was a good run defender, but he really thrived at getting into the backfield as a pass rusher. Wilkins has some really nice pass rush upside with a ton of moves that he utilizes, and he was incredibly productive for Miami over the last few years, and I expect that to continue when looking at his production for Vegas. Walker is a better athlete all around and maybe a slightly better run defender, but when I see Wilkins play, I think they've got a very similar play style, so that's my comparison for Deone Walker. Deone Walker is a unicorn. Very rarely do we see a player of his size with this type of athleticism and body control. I think he is going to be in for a massive season for Kentucky in 2024, and I ultimately believe that Deone Walker will be a top 15 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.